inside, please come inside. Retro Pamisa, which are coming from our PC. The Coparamo Misenga Pina.
Amandla. Viva Nasco Viva. Viva Basali Viva. Phambili ngabazali phambili. Comrade ngithamosha isikhathi. Ngizwile ukuthi into ziyachange. Zizochange. Zizochange izinto. Comrades, yeah, not you. Comrades, Kimo, and I'm so impressed. Number one. You want to see Sedibeng as well. You know Sedibeng Kimo no meet. And the Mitara no ngabad. It's a police, nice. Firstly, you should give me a round of applause for Sedibeng. At least they will also want to. Right. Comrades, we look at something, a number of things they will the service providers alone. You know, they were raising a number of issues. Education, phones, and what. The chairperson of school is good, so it was in primary school. In Ikane Sali established in 1963. 1963. Next year, it was 60 years. 1963, direct. Teacher again go pillar 1 plus 1 equals to 2. 2023, teacher go pay or 1 plus 1 equals to 2. You can't be a all-rounder. All the experts are legal. All the experts are marketing. All the experts are HR. All the experts are administration. Every sector are the experts. Now what we expect everything we can. So we must start disseminating our powers and our systems within organization and make sure that we start appointing the lawyer to become legal representatives. The problem is question about differentiate issues to parenting. About the issue or more academic issues. It's not about intellectual position. Only intellectual person to be a parent. Now or give a parent then really too. And a lotolaga little first day. We are the only society in the world that teaches our parent how to parent. We are the only society in the world that teaches our parents how to parent. PhD
Safety that. So the chief directors were summoned to go there. That is why he is not part of the meeting. So our region, as I was explaining, it is called Sedibeng region because of the areas that we are servicing. So in that office, this office is headed by Chief Director Teta. I hope a lot of us know Teta because Teta has been the District Director of Sedibeng West District, but he's now the Chief Director responsible for the region. Now this office has got an organogram. I'm not going to talk much about the organogram. It's fine, I will leave that. But our office, because sometimes you may find that comrades would want to go and talk to the Chief Director. The office is currently at Ekurhuleni South District, in Mayorsdal, that is where we are. But very soon, we'll be moving to the head office, Fox Street. I just wanted to emphasize this part. This is not a one-man show. All the stakeholders that are related to a particular school, they must participate in the process of whole school improvement. Now, at the end of every term, we say this is what is our challenge, and this is what we said we are going to do to resolve. At the end of the term, we should be able to say, evaluate ourselves, how far have we improved? So that is called profiling. Okay? Let's move to the next slide. We are currently dealing with admissions as the Department of Education. That's where we are. But we must indicate that in dealing with the process of admissions, there are very big challenges. And what is the main challenge there? Is that the number of applicants is more than the number of spaces available. As a result, we find that up to now, there's a big number of learners that have not been placed as yet. Okay? But what is it that the department is trying to do to solve that problem? The department has identified the schools that we call high-pressure schools. High-pressure schools, it means that those are the schools in high demand. And the department is allocating money directly to those schools now. That those schools must engage in what is called the self-build project. The schools are appointing service providers to come and build those classes according to the allocation that was given to them. This allocation is over and above the RTT allocation. It's over and above that allocation for textbooks, stationery, payment of services, and maintenance. It's over and above. They get an additional allocation. But there's a challenge again here from the get-go. Those local business people, those local business people who are derailing processes because they say they demand 30%. They don't even want to work. You must give them, if you have been given $1 million, you must give them 30% of $1 million and then they go, and then you have. So that is what South Africa has become, unfortunately. So we're also saying in relation to the admissions, the late registration period will be starting on the 20th of December, and will be closing on the 20th of January, 2023. On the issues of school safety, we acknowledge there are challenges in terms of school safety. There are very big challenges. The school infrastructure is not safe, people in the school are not safe, all those things. That is why there is a school safety indaba today. And we hope that that indaba will come up with firm decisions. But added to this, comrades, there is this new phenomenon of the kidnapping of students. They are kidnapped, they are hijacked, and in some cases, members of governing body are involved. Because we know that in one school, the treasurer of the SGB has been arrested. So governors, you have a responsibility to come up with a recommendation as to how this matter can be dealt with. There's a program in the department that is called the Reorganization of Schools. And this came in the 6th administration when former MEC, now the Premier of the province, that became the MEC. In his second term, this is what was introduced, the Reorganization of Schools. This reorganization of schools have got three components. One, schools of specialization. Two, Section 17 governing bodies, which sometimes we call TUI. And thirdly, the multi-certification skills program. Now, when we look at the multi-certification skills program, his administration has realized that learners stay in the system for 12 years. It is only in the 12th year that they are going to be certificated. It's beginning to say that is unfair. Even before grade 12, learners must be certificated. It could be on coding and robotics. It could be swimming for those schools that have got swimming pools and other resources. So that is that. And this one, Section 17 governing bodies, it is the tuning program between the former Model C schools and the old DET schools. So these schools are tuned, and there are three strategic objectives there. One is the sharing of resources. Two is social cohesion. Three is improvement of learner performance. Because if this thing runs properly, Section 17 governing body, if this school is part of the tuning program, a good teacher in this school, and this school is twinned with tutorial. A good school in mathematics in this school can be able to teach learners in this school and learners at tutorial in mathematics at the same time. Where we stream the lesson, where we connect the teacher digitally, we digitalize and digitize. So that is what we are able to do in this particular program. Learners at tutorial can come and use the resources in this particular school. The sport field and all the hall, that school can have their sessions here, whatever session, they can use this particular hall. It is from this particular program. But here, the schools of specialization, this administration has also realized that some of the things that our learners are taught are irrelevant. So we've got schools in this region. There are 3 schools in Sedibeng, 3 schools that are schools of specialization. One is Muhlodi. Muhlodi is the School of Maritime. Those are K.Mzansi. And then we have Mulifi Olifant, Dr. Mulifi Olifant. Dr. Mulifi Olifant is a maths, science, and ICT school with focus on global warming and climate change. So that is where that school is. We are having this problem this week. Heavy rains. Heavy rains. It is because of global warming and climate change. So it is envisaged that learners from that school should be able to assist us as to how to resolve those particular problems. So that is what is happening. This is what we have done. And we are saying that these schools also, over and above the RTT, just like the self-build program, over and above the RTT, these schools are allocated a lot of money. The schools of specialization. Schools of specialization, they are allocated money, but also governing bodies. If there's a governing body from Saudi, there's a governing body from K.Mzansi here, you also do not use this money willy-nilly. Firstly, you are going to be given a template, which is a business plan template. You put what you think. No one tells you what to put there. You put what you think you are going to do with those millions, but on condition that those millions that you are going to use, whatever you are going to use it for, it must be in line with what the learners in that school need. It must be based on the needs of the learners. But also, when you start to be a section, when you start to be a school of specialization, we put you under Section 25 of SASA. Administration. Because we are saying we want to capacitate you first to be able to deal with millions. And if we are now satisfied that you can walk on your own, we give you all the functions and say, run on your own, because you are able to use money correctly and we are able to account correctly. Because we have given people money only to find that we have tempted people. Some of the people whom we have given lots and lots of money have been dismissed today because we gave them money and could not capacitate. That's where the problem is. So we put you under Section 25 because we want to capacitate you. So that is why we are saying that your business plan, the implementation thereof, is monitored by the Department of Education. We envisage, we foresee a time where we have these quarterly meetings. We call governing bodies on a quarterly basis as a department, wherein we come and account to say to you, in term 1, this is how the children perform. And these are the subjects that did not perform well. In each and every school, this is how, so that parents can also see which schools are performing, which schools are not performing. But we do not want, we are not doing that to criticize, but we also want to share ideas, to say, how can we improve on that particular situation? But it is in line with what we call QLTC. I don't want to take it for granted that governors know what QLTC is. We do, yeah? So, it is in line, we're calling the QLTC sessions. Tateke Ekemo was saying, you go to our township schools, children go there 10, they are not late, they put colors, similar colors, not necessarily the uniform. But if we have got strong QLTC structures, those problems can be resolved. Because in other homes, parents have given up. They cannot control their own children. That which we have said, village, it is through the QLTC that we'll be able to deal with these challenges. And we therefore urge the National Association of School Government Bodies to be an active participant in QLTC programs. Let's change that. Oh, I'm finishing now. Oh. I see you're enjoying. We want to take this opportunity really to thank NASGB for inviting us. And we want to believe that this is the beginning of working in the future. And we hold a vote of faith that there will never be any good quality teaching in Kenya without the National Association of Schools.
I want to assure you, I tell you what the director actually did. So what I'm going to be presenting in my organizational report, if it speaks to what he has already alluded on, it's not because we spoke, but it's because we also understand what are the challenges in education. So our humble plea here, governors, you know sometimes what we normally do, you get frustrated and then you start saying, then you go and start your own thing. There's a reason why National Association of School Governing Bodies in Sedibeng has remained intact. Because so many people have tried moving us, loading us to go somewhere, and we've remained steadfast around Moria. If we are one International Association of School Governing Bodies, we will build and I'm proud today that you are sitting in this August occasion because the 72nd Charter of Refugee might want to interrogate or have some input or questions to the presentation that we've just gotten from the director. So if there will be any, the house is open for the interrogation of the report.
Maybe because with your permission. No, there's one part that I have missed in the presentation. In the region, especially in Sedibeng West, there's something that was beginning to become fashionable. This issue of misplacing principals. The issue of removing principals from schools and instructing them not to come and report at the district. I'm happy to announce that that matter has been arrested. But we may be tempted to do it again. I want to say, governors, that is illegal. That is illegal, correctly. Because it is only the head of the department, Ntate Edward Musuwe, according to the South African Schools Act, who has the power to remove any employee from
concentration span as human beings. The way in it so sometimes you listen to a presentation, on something else. No, that's not a presentation on. So I hope these hands are going to speak to the presentation and not anything else. So in that sequence, 1, 2, 3.
I think let me acknowledge your presentation of Twister Holo, because some of us were not even aware of the ROS reorganizational of schools, But I was a little bit tempted because on my arrival here at SMART, I'm Zeksingai, the chairperson of SMART.
You are the host.
I'm the host.
Okay.
That is why I gave you this big hall. I knew that you are going to feel it. But I'm aware that others are still in Solto State. They are coming, don't mind. Now, that Vossier, in your ROS, I believe 2014, SMART was one of the schools that was adopted for a sports-focused school. And there was a budget in those years. I also want to resuscitate that particular discussion so that I want to get sense what happened. Because no one knows from the school who I'm not sure monthly or annually, those 200,000 fine. Second to that, the point that I've yet to talking about these specialized schools, whether when you start that particular project, you put that school into an administration, but you didn't mention for how long. We might be there for many years. So I think I was expecting that there was an explain fella for 3 months and then by hand over and then later my lawyer pay. I think the last point, I was quick to say QLTS right there, but for the benefit of this house, perhaps it disadvantage some delegates, because I know the department likes to abbreviate. Forgetting that we are not educators or we are not learned colleagues. The last point that I want to make submission to this conference is that you spoke about Section 20, our functioning as the NASGB, Section 21, that for us to remove the principal, we normally took the wrong step against the law. But what happened yet, SMART teachers remove the principal for the whole week. Yeah. So I want to check with you whether they are right to remove the principal, but if we remove the principal as we are acting against the law. As I'm speaking to you, there is no principal here. They said to remove the principal at the school the whole week. They said they will never allow the principal to be here until the district arrive and give attention to that. Thank you.
From Upton Park Primary. Director, I have 2 questions based on your presentation. The first one is regarding admissions. Admissions I had already. The plan the department gave with the South classes to increase the capacity at home. The South classes, maybe they can take 1 or 2 months to years at a project. But we have an immediate challenge here at 1,000 school kids that are still not placed. The last time I checked, I had present to a day at the Simatung. When I take it 1,000 that are still not placed, what's the plan for the 1,000? Because Southfield, we can get 2 months from now on, before we got back at classes. So, give the immediate plan for the 1,000. Actually, the logic behind determination at special schools, especially in Sharpeville. We have Mohlodi that was chosen as a specialized school. But how should Mohlodi, we babisa the $2 already had infrastructure and almost similar curriculum. A guy is already determined as a special school. What criteria was used to determine this?
The basic point ntwe re sa kwang re lateletse ka pele ka o hlokomela re bile le ntho e re ammeng 2020 to 2021 which is COVID, and ho ya ka yona amme the entire program e re leng ka yona mo ha ona motho ya le mona ka tlung a ke nna kopana le maemo a bophelo ba ka fe ka ba teng a ke nna kopana bana ba tshwara matric a tjena ba tlo failang ka rate e hodimo le ba tshwarang grade 11 le grade 10 ke di drop out tsa mathata a ba etsaetseng a 2020. And what did we do, all of us here? To us as parents, I guess as teachers and everything, what did we do, Runa, to correct that program, especially in Runa district? Halibona 2022, what did we do? From the feeding setup, yeah, primary or share primary meaning, program through this program.
From the presentation, the director, there's just few points that I just want to make. First, around issue schools of specialization. With reference to Mohlodi, we want to make this appeal, Chief Directors. It's a matter that must be put for consideration. We are welcoming the whole idea of schools of specialization, but there's a weakness. We want to say go and improve. One thing that must happen, make sure that there's a clear program in terms of partnerships from the private sector. Because one will ask one fundamental question. Mohlodi is a school of maritime. And if you look geographically, maritime is in the KZN and Western Cape and etc. in terms of the oceans and etc. So it's without belittling it, let's find a way of bringing specialists into that area. Because one thing that is also, maybe that also need to ask ourselves, has the department gone so far in terms of the curriculum changes, FPS assess to speak to the industry
curriculum in relation to Mohlodi? The partnership with the private sector, geographic location of the school, has a department. The Department of Education has got partnerships with companies that are relevant for individual schools of specialization. There is a maritime organization, professional organization that deals with maritime. We have a partnership with those people. They work closely with the school. But I do know that there's a person from the school who was taken to Cape Town, to a school of maritime in Cape Town, to have to do some sort of study work. The person has gone there, and I want to believe that the person has come there to report. And in terms of maritime, it is not only about what is happening physically, but there are also courses of management of maritime things and all those things. It is there in the impact of COVID-19 on teaching and learning. I think principals who are present here, the Department of Education has tried to intervene in terms of closing the content gaps. That is why you have Nosiabula, e-learning, children can connect. That is why they are here. The gentleman who was sitting here, that's why they are here. And all those contents are zero rated. They are not being paid for. So it's a way of trying to close the issues, the impact. But the question that we may not overlook is it happening as it is supposed to happen? That's the main thing that we need to check as well. And I think governors, that is why we are saying in every school governing board meeting, RS, it must be mandatory that we have an item that it says it is the principal's report. The principal must be reporting on curriculum issues. How do we use these things that are remote learning? How do we use IT to cover the content gaps? A very important question, the criteria used to select the schools of specialization. Governors, I must confess, I must tell you that initially the department was not hard and fast. was not very strict in determining which schools would come in as schools of specialization. But now, there are very clear criteria. One, no school will be identified to be a school of specialization if learner performance is not up to standard. Okay? Secondly, no school will be identified to be a school of specialization if there are no good management systems in the school. That school will never be chosen as a school of, that is just a few of those. But previously, we were not hard and fast on those things. The school must have a record, a good record of good financial management. Because we are giving those schools a lot of money as a department. So, we are very strict. 1,000 learners. If we have looked at the presentation, the department is obliged, as an obligation constitutionally speaking. Every child has a right, every citizen has a right to education. Every child has a right to be at school. Albeit, it may not be a school that you as a parent has preferred. Okay? Because the school A that we have applied to is full. Now, the Department of Education will have to give you another option now. Because we are satisfying this obligation that every child, the arrangements will be made. Teachers having removed the principal, I may have to investigate this. There's only one person, governors, there's only one person who can remove an employee. It is the head of the department. The head of department may place me on precautionary transfer. He may remove me from general smarts and say to me, let me go and report in the district. That is precautionary transfer. He may put me on precautionary suspension. Say, no, Mun, stay home because you'll interfere with my witnesses. Or he may dismiss me. That is how the HOD can remove. No any other person can remove an employee. Even when the MEC doesn't like me, if the MEC wants to remove me from school, he would have to go and lobby the HOD. It is the HOD only who can remove me from a school. So that issue of teachers having removed the principal, we'll follow it up. QLTC, that there's one parent who say, little department in Rataham do abbreviate. QLTC, Q is for quality, L is learning, T, teaching, C, campaign. So this campaign, it enjoins, it brings together all the stakeholders.
Currently, Muhlodi has got subjects like robotics, but anything maritime related, you will never find in it. And the capacity as well. I hear you are speaking of one person that was taken to Cape Town, and this person came. As much as Mutwasa, we are still not seeing anything that is speaking to maritime in that school. And equally, Rona Harudua is an association. Rejela Aseka Regional Rona, because we did say we are in the periphery of Gauteng as a province, and we are seen as being a region that is rural. So we are saying from Muhlodi has got an opportunity, Yahore, locals and other South Africans, but who participate in the blue economy. So if we ensure that Muhlodi becomes a school of specialization on maritime, there's so many opportunities that can be unlocked. So that the leadership that is going to emerge out of this conference is going to make it a program to assist the school to actually become a school of specialization. And we are saying this because I want to make an example. Rhodesville, just next to OR Town, it's a school of specialization specializing in aeronautics. You go to the school, you will find an aircraft engine in the school. Learners are dealing with that aircraft on how to fix that engine. Go to Muhlodi, you will never find this one.
Next take a March. NASGB expects for the vacancy the affiliation forms in compliance so that the department should recognize NASGB. NASGB recognized. Who talk parliament there? No president to avail. Let's go pass not there. No really go now. It's a tamahu. It's something matter. Those people like issue are bad. Not real. Because we didn't have a position on it as NASGB. The other parties, Renalba Tataka di Kaso Ka Union. Here's a principal who's a member of SGB. Here's a teacher who is on terror. And they belong to the same union. Now the principal must discipline this particular employee. Okay? Because he manager, as you say. So that's disciplined. How does that discipline? How are you conferencing? Mutos and some vote into chairperson or what does that?
One, it was not formulated to take the duties SGP. Sure. I wanted the director, I thought the director would put that because of in particular, we are lobbying the SGPs to be part of it. Two, their admission on Mandela. You see, after the MEC has spoken about admission, major thing is that children passing place is about 36,000 in total. But the number that creates, it's appeals. Mutualifua, general smarts, abati general smarts, battle riverside. Those are the things that up the number. But now, once you start getting the appeal, how that's successful, you move to general smarts. There's a vacancy here. Instead of you coming to the system, because the system is being renewed now, to say you have that the pattern data technology, right, where you say decline the what you call because of your already being still. I wanted also to take on that one because of the number, the reflection of the number from the time the MEC was speaking until now is different. The only case that we are dealing with decisively so, because of Reduziga lawsuit as the office. Again, director, I'll plead with you, because of now I moved from Swan, I'm here in Sedibeng, the host page. I'll plead with you that let it, the quarter must not over, iskafita, sukarkopanali, this structure. Because of the more there's a gap, the more we are going to find this. Yeah. That's the plea that I'm asking between Nadwa and
Welcome again, my beautiful Mzansi Voice viewers. And now I'm with Mr. Gabriel Maboye, the chairperson of NASGB. Mr. Maboye, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And yourself, Minir?
I'm good. Can you explain to the viewers what the conference today at General Smarts is about?
Today, as Sedibeng region, we are having a regional elective conference. So out of this conference, Sedibeng is going to have a new leadership that will take the region to its next regional conference. But before then, the leadership that is going to emerge out of this conference is going to convene what we call a regional general council, where we are going to present resolutions emanating from this regional congress and equally financial reports in print form so that all our member schools can know what is it that was agreed and discussed in this regional congress.
And as NASGB, Mr. Maboye, how far is it willing to take its relationship, especially with the government, in terms of governing schools across the country?
Our relationship is guided by legislation. Remember, as SGB associations, we are guided by legislation, particularly, if I may be specific, Section 19 of the South African Schools Act, which speaks about empowering school governing bodies. So this we cannot do on our own. We have to do it in conjunction with the Department of Education. And this has to be done by way of working together with the Department of Education, making sure that whatever trainings that we provide for our member schools and those that are not our affiliates are funded by the Department of Education as legislated by the same section 19 of the South African Schools Act.
Last question for you, Mr. Mabue. Even in the conference, I heard that, especially with a lot of allegations that come facing the SGB members in terms of these hijackings that have been happening in the schools and the principals. What's your take from the NASGB perspective of those allegations, and what will NASGB do going forward in terms of dealing with such and making sure that all the SGB members are in line and doing all the correct things for the betterment of the schools?
Starting with the current situations that we've had within our regions. First, we have a school called Mfuleni Primary, where a principal was abducted. And then we have Lakeside Secondary. These are schools that are within our region, but we are told there's a third school. But I will not mention the name of the school because this has not been brought officially to us. So what we are going to do, because in one of these cases, the suspects have been apprehended. So as NASGB, we are going to have a campaign that speaks directly to this thing, because we want to nip it in the bud before it gets any worse. Because we want to make it clear that we are not in support of this thing, because if it is going to be allowed to carry on, no one is going to feel free to continue serving in the SGB, and no principal is going to allow having a departmental phone on his or her possession, because they are now these things are opening them up and exposing them to these dangers of being abducted and hijacked over monies that do not belong to us. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mabue. We'll continue following up on the story and how NASGB is working.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was Mr. Gabriel Mabue, just finishing up on the story of the hijackings that have been happening around here, just highlighting us their take as NASGB into the hijackings and the allegations that are brought up to SGB members and how they will deal with them. We'll continue following up the story to find out the lake on NASGB and how things will pan out. Welcome again, my beautiful Mzansi Voice viewers. Today we are in General Smarts, where the NASGB held a conference about all the SGB members. And now I am with Mr. Moeketsi Phiri, who is an SGB member and also a chairperson for two schools, being the primary and the high school. Mr. Moeketsi, how are you, sir?
I'm okay myself. And I'm also the chairperson of Greater Soweto NASGB region.
Okay. You did mention that you are an SGB member and a chairperson of two schools, being the primary and the high school. Can you elaborate to the viewers as to why you chose to be a chairperson on the higher and lower education levels?
Education is a mainstream. So it's if we line it up in terms of the primary, preschool, primary and high school, and then take it further to university, it will then work better. That's the reason why we are trying to make sure that the feeder school, which is a primary, also communicates and interacts with high school in terms of the necessary needs and the educational forum or structures that are going to come through. But over and above that as well, it's also of a paramount important to have preparation properly for our matriculants in terms of the output, what we want, in resolving challenges that we have in our society.
Very well put, Mr. Moeketsi. Also, today, as we are in General Smarts at this conference, what's the purpose of this conference and what are the SGB members hoping to achieve out of this conference today?
We are formulating proper structures of this region, which is Sedibeng. Because once we can have an association structures that are properly established, we'll then be in a position to have a mandate and program of action.
We are still in General Smarts in Vrynigen, where now I am from a representative from the office of the director, just for him to explain to us the contents of today's conference. Good day, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And how are you, sir?
I'm good. Can you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
My name is Vusumzi Jones Rajwili. I'm from Chief Director Victor Teta's office, the Chief Director for Sedi West region. We are here today at General Smarts High School. There is a conference a regional conference of the National Association of School Governing Bodies, where the association is reflecting on the work that they've done educationally. They're explaining there's going to be the chairperson's report now, the outgoing chairperson's report. He's now going to reflect on the work that they've done in an endeavor to advance education and to assist the Department of Education to make our schools functional and to make sure that there's discipline in our schools.
Mentioning part of disciplines in our schools. You touched base on different elements and different roles that one has to play in terms of management roles and governing roles, and where the SGB fits in terms of governing the school. Is the department ensuring that all the SGB members are aware of their responsibilities and where they fit in and where they don't fit in?
Surely the department has done some work. The department, after the election of the current SGBs, the Department of Education has organized some training for the newly elected SGBs around their roles and responsibilities. So I'm very confident that the governors who are present here, they do know what is expected of them in terms of their roles and responsibilities.
And also, you talked about the issue of specialized schools, and you mentioned that currently in Sedibeng we only have 3 schools that are specialized. Are we going to see a rise in those numbers, and are there any other schools that have been identified to be placed under specialized schools?
Yes, there are schools that have been identified, which schools will be launched in the year 2023. In our region, there are schools in Gauteng West that will be launched in 2023. So we foresee a rise in the number of schools of specialization, noting, of course, the purpose of having these schools, because learners who come from these schools are expected to make a meaningful contribution to the economy of the country. That is in relation with the skills, or in relation to the skills that they will be leaving the schools with after grade 12.
Lastly, my question for you, my good sir, is there's a burning issue, and I think you also touched base on it in your presentation about the recent hijackings and kidnapping of the school's principals, and whereas in other instances allegations have come that part or some of those perpetrators are the SGB members in such schools. What's the government take, and what's the way forward that the government is going to take in terms of dealing with such issues and such allegations?
Truly speaking, issues of hijacking of principals have got nothing to do with education. Those are purely criminal elements who are engaged in those activities, and therefore the South African Police Service must come out handy in dealing with the rot that we are experiencing, because this threatens people's lives. It really has got nothing to do with education. This is pure criminality, and therefore it must be treated and dealt with as such.
Okay. Thank you very much, my good sir.
Always a pleasure. Thanks. Thank you very much.